So here we are. The author says, the chapter of prayer. The prescribed prayers are five. We explained that. The prescribed prayers are five. Advancing the prayer ahead of its time and delaying it after its time without an excuse is a major sin. We explained that. Give me a number, please. How many cases did we count? Just a number only. How many cases did we count? Praying early or late?
Three.
No. We counted five. Five. We counted five. Someone else said three also. So, what are they? Let's go again. List them for me, please. 5, 4.
And then sickness, traveling, rain.
Sickness, traveling, rain. That's 3 right there. What else did we mention? Sleep. That's 4. 3.
Was the last one forgetfulness?
Forgetfulness. Barakallahu feek. Sickness, traveling, rain. Sickness, travel, and rain. Those ones you can have an intention for them. And sleep and forgetfulness. And when it comes to sleep, like we said, if you sleep inside the time, you know the time is in, and if you go to sleep, you're not going to wake back up to pray, then that's haram. But if, for example, you slept before Fajr came in and you believed that you wouldn't wake up until after it went out, that's not haram. Someone might tell you that's haram. I don't know if any of the scholars said that's haram. But once I had a discussion with one of the students of knowledge, I was surprised that he was saying that's haram. It's not haram. Okay. So, and that's a major sin. That's correct. How many major sins are there? Close to 70 major sins. Praying early or late without an excuse is a major sin. The beginning of Dhuhr time, the author says, is when the sun declines. He says, إِذَا زَالَتِ الشَّمْسِ. Yes. So, I recently knew a word for that now, after all these years, because you will not realize anything unless Allah will for you to realize it. Which is that this time right here, when the sun declines, which means the sun comes out of its zenith. The zenith is when the sun is in the middle of the sky at its highest point of the day. The instance when the sun comes out of there into the west, that's called post-meridian, PM. It was right there in plain sight. What you call hiding in plain sight. Dhuhr time starts at PM, post-meridian. Morning's over. Yani, noon started. The noon is the zenith itself. وَآخِرُهُ إِذَا its end is when the length of صَارَ ظِلُّ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Let's just say any. When the length of any shadow becomes equal to the length of what casts it, excluding the zenith shadow. غَيْرَ ظِلِّ الْإِسْتِوَاءِ. Excluding the zenith shadow. Yani, not the zenith shadow. Yes. Okay. Now, if you have learned about the prayer times before, especially if you have learned it several times, then this is clear. This is familiar. What I like to draw your attention to, if you didn't notice it or know, is that firstly, how do we say when Dhuhr time comes in? Habibi Malik, can you tell me, please, express to me what you say? How does Dhuhr time come in? I'm sorry. Wait, not Dhuhr time, not Dhuhr time. Asr time.
Asr time comes in when the length of the shadow of an object reaches the length of that object plus the length of its shadow at zenith time.
Okay. Yes. So you said plus. So correct. Plus means including. The author here is saying excluding. Well, plus the slightest addition. Okay. Yeah. Let me read what does the author say here. Let me make sure I'm not getting mixed up myself here. So he said the beginning of the Dhuhr time is when the sun declines. That's PM, real PM. It's yani natural PM. Its end is when the length of any shadow becomes equal to the length of what casts it, excluding the zenith shadow. So this is when Dhuhr goes out. Dhuhr goes out when? When Asr comes in. Okay, yani there's not a gap in between them. When does Asr come in? He says the beginning of Asr time is when every shadow, or any shadow, is as long as what casts it. وَزَادَ أَدْنَى زِيَادَةً, plus the slightest addition. Okay, some interesting words here. Basically, what the author's saying here, the way he's saying the prayer time, it's like he's saying Asr doesn't come in when Dhuhr goes out. It's like he's saying Asr comes in after Dhuhr goes out. Not that he's saying Asr comes in when Dhuhr goes out. He's really saying Asr comes in after Dhuhr goes out. But for your information, you can say a prayer time comes in when the previous one goes out, except when you talk about Fajr and Dhuhr. Fajr and Dhuhr have a gap in between them. Yani, in other words, it's valid to call the beginning of a prayer time the end of another prayer time, or to call the end of a prayer time the beginning of another prayer time. This is valid. The way the author worded this here is like he's saying Dhuhr, Asr comes in after Dhuhr goes out, not when Dhuhr goes out. Okay, what's happening here? You have, first of all, usually, we're at noon time. What's noon? That's zenith. You have at noon a shadow. Oh, this is the zenith shadow, noon shadow. Then, so at that time, Dhuhr is not in, as you know. At that time, Dhuhr is not in. So Dhuhr did not start yet. There is a shadow, and Dhuhr didn't start yet. That's why he's saying excluding the zenith shadow. It's like he's saying, well, when there's a zenith shadow, Dhuhr is not even in yet. Dhuhr will start at PM when the sun tilts. Then the shadow starts to grow. Start counting from there. From the existing shadow, not including the existing shadow, start counting from there. Yani start measuring. Start measuring your shadow from here. This is what the author's saying. Then, when that shadow gets as long as the object that's casting it, Dhuhr is out. So, you see, Malik, is that clear for you how he's like saying it a little bit different?
Yeah.
Then he said the beginning of Asr time is when every or any shadow is as long as what casts it, plus the slightest addition. So when he says plus the slightest addition, then means he's saying starts after Dhuhr is over. Because when's Dhuhr over? Not plus the slightest addition. Dhuhr is over, according to the author, when the shadow is as long as the object. Not more, and not including the zenith shadow. But there is a zenith shadow. He is counting the zenith shadow. Really, it's just the way he's saying it. So, Dhuhr comes in At PM, sun tilts out of its zenith and stays in until a shadow is as long as the object is casting it, which we can call it a prop. It stays in until a shadow is as long as its prop, whatever's casting the shadow. What about the zenith shadow? After that shadow, starting from that shadow, when the shadow gets as long as the object. And Asr time starts then when the shadow gets longer than that, according to the author. And he said, its end, Asr's end, is sunset. So is this clear before I go forward?
Just repeat the last part, please.
Yes. He said the beginning of Asr time is when any shadow is as long as what casts it, plus the slightest addition. What does it say in the summary of obligatory knowledge? The summary of obligatory knowledge says Asr begins when Dhuhr ends. Or does it say after? Now that we are fishing. Sorry, one second. Faslun. Okay, I will just look another time. I'm not finding it. By the will of Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So, the beginning of Asr time is when any shadow is as long as what casts it, plus the slightest addition. Its end is sunset. Or are we recording? Alright, so there's no question there. I'll continue. The beginning of Maghrib time is the setting of the sun's disk. And its end, according to what is preferred, is the setting of the red twilight. Yes. So the beginning of Maghrib time is the end of Asr time. The setting of the sun's disk. That means when the top part of the sun is below the horizon. That's the same part of the sun that emerges in the morning. First, the top part of the sun emerges in the morning before the rest of it. That's when Fajr is over. And that same top part of the sun disappears in the evening. That's when Asr's over. And its end, Al-Maghrib's end, according to what is preferred, is the setting of the red twilight. Yes. What is this wording here? According to what is preferred. What did he say? Al-Mukhtasar. This is a signal to a difference in opinion in the school, within the madhab, not between schools. I'm not denying there's something between the schools, but I'm not even going that far. Just within the Shafi'i school, there are two sayings about the end of Maghrib time. The author signaled to this difference in opinion when he said, according to what is preferred. But he didn't mention the other saying, he just mentioned the preferred saying, the setting of the red twilight. Yes, this red twilight is visible on a clear day. When it disappears, Maghrib is over, even if there were another color still visible, such as white. And the beginning of Isha time is the setting of the red twilight. That means that Isha begins when Maghrib ends. What's the other saying about Maghrib? According to Ash-Shafi'i's later saying, his later saying, that means rather what they would call his new saying. Ash-Shafi'i has two madhabs, the old madhab and the new madhab. When you learn Shafi'i school at a certain level, then this is normally mentioned wherever the cases arise. According to the old schools, like this. According to the new schools, like this. And when you learn Shafi'i school, like on a basic level, like we are now, then there's a good chance it won't even come up. You wouldn't know a Shafi'i has two madhabs. In a way, that's similar to the Hanafi school. How so? Because the Hanafi school really, the way they study it, is three madhabs combined. Because the Hanafis, they study the sayings of Abu Hanifa and Judge Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani. These three. The other two are the highest students of Abu Hanifa, and they became mujtahids themselves. Absolute mujtahids. So they, in reality, have their own madhab, but their madhabs are so close to Abu Hanifa's school that the Hanafis study all those three madhabs at the same time. And whenever there is a difference that arises in some case, they will say, according to Abu Hanifa and according to his two companions, it's like this. Or according to his disciple Fulan is like this, and according to Abu Hanifa and the other ones like this, like that. In the Shafi'i school, you don't have someone to rival a Shafi'i saying. Not like in the Hanafi school. Those sayings are rivaling the sayings of Abu Hanifa, although they are his disciples, because they are really absolute mujtahids. In the Shafi'i school, you don't have someone saying who can rival Shafi'i's judgment. Unless there were another kind of mujtahid who's like Shafi'i. There are mujtahids in Shafi'i school like that too. I'm digressing here. So anyway, let me get back on track. A Shafi'i has two madhabs, an old one and a new one. Can you follow? Can you follow either? Yes. How? If the Imam himself changed his ijtihad, how can you still follow it? Anyone know the answer to that question? If the Imam himself changed his ijtihad, how could you still follow the old one? 5, 4, 3. Okay, I'll just tell you. Because the old one was a valid ijtihad. When the Imam changes his ijtihad, then it becomes like a mujtahid who differs with a mujtahid. He's basically differing with himself. He made an ijtihad at one point. He made another ijtihad at another point. The first ijtihad was never actually invalidated because ijtihad, there's a rule. Ijtihad does not invalidate ijtihad. When he made ijtihad the first time and it was valid, correct, legal ijtihad, then so be it. When he made ijtihad the next time and he came up with a different answer, this doesn't invalidate the first one. And maybe the first one still is really the stronger one, actually. Yeah, even if it contradicts it. Yes, which is the case. This is the case. This is what it means when we say different sayings. Different sayings means two sayings, you can't put them together. They are not able to be merged. So, for example, a Shafi'i has a saying that touching the anus uh, does not break the wudu. And he has a saying that touching the anus breaks the wudu. In this case, saying that it does break the wudu, the scholars of the Shafi'i school deemed it stronger. And that was his new saying. His old saying was that it doesn't. They said, the Shafi'i scholars, they said most of the cases when Shafi'i changed his ijtihad to the new way are stronger. But a handful of them, yani more than a handful of them, less than 20 of them, are stronger in the old school. Those are the scholars under Ash-Shafi'i in his madhab investigating what he is saying and the proofs he's using and his arguments and what they know also. In this case of the Maghrib prayer, Ash-Shafi'i's new saying was, I left you in suspense all this time. Ash-Shafi'i's new saying was that Maghrib lasts as long as it takes to make wudu, call the adhan, cover yourself, make the iqamah, pray 5 rakats, and pray 5 rakats. And all of whatever is needed to accomplish that, including taking some morsels to eat. I'll repeat. The new saying of Ash-Shafi'i is that how long does Maghrib time last? As long as it takes to call the adhan, make wudu, cover yourself, also find the qibla, and make the iqamah, and pray 5 rakats. So I can say that much is going to be correct. Please repeat again. Yes, no problem. What's the new saying of Ash-Shafi'i for the Maghrib time? The time needed to find the Qibla, call the adhan, make wudu. If you're the mu'adhin, though, you're going to make wudu before you call the adhan, sunnah. It's makruh, call the adhan without wudu. Find the Qibla, make wudu, call the adhan, and cover yourself. Find the Qibla, make wudu, cover yourself, call the adhan, call the iqamah, find the Qibla, call the adhan. Now other people need to make wudu, cover yourself, call the iqamah, pray 5 rakats. That's Maghrib and 2 sunnahs. And that's it. The time it takes to do that without rushing and without going slow. And even being able to grab some bites, some morsels to eat. That's the new saying of Ash-Shafi'i. The scholars of the Shafi'i school said his old saying is stronger in this case. That Maghrib time ends by the setting of the red twilight. Any question? He says the beginning of Isha time is the setting of the red twilight. So it's over when Maghrib, it's in when Maghrib's over. Its end is the rising of the true dawn, which is what spreads horizontally, not vertically. Not a light that shoots up into the sky vertically where the sun would rise. That's not when Isha is over. If you happen to see it, you might never see it all of your life. But the scholar said there is such a light. That light comes about 20 minutes before the sun rises, and then it disappears. And then Fajr will come in. See, that's how you just pass the knowledge as you receive it. Would you say, well, I never saw something like that all my life? I won't say it to anybody. No, you're just going to pass the information on. The beginning of subh time is the rising of the true dawn. So that one that goes up into the sky is the false dawn. Subh is Fajr, two names for the same prayer. Its end is the rising of the sun. So what happens at Fajr time? At first, it's going to be a thin light across the horizon. Then it will grow and grow. When I tell you there would be a thin light across the horizon, you should know that that light will be there actually before you can notice it. When are you obligated to pray? When it's noticeable. When it's noticeable, then you're obligated to pray. Same thing for the other prayer times. When does Dhuhr come in? When the sun tilts out of its zenith. The sun will have tilted out of its zenith before your eye can even perceive it. Yani, by the time you perceive that the sun is out of its zenith, it will really have been already out of its zenith, even if you were sitting there watching it. When does the obligation apply to you? When it's noticeable. Not when it really, really happens, but when it's noticeable. That's what the scholars said. Because it's when it really, really happens is unperceivable to us. So that Fajr starts out as a light across the horizon, then it increases. Eventually, the sky will turn blue. Yani, it's already blue. Where does the blue come from? It's already there. Why you don't see it? Because it's dark outside. Yani, the darkness came, and the darkness came between your eye and the sky. The sky, which is a solid object. The darkness, which is the night. The night is a body of darkness that moves. It has its own orbit. The daytime is a body of light. Some scholars say it's different from the sunlight. They say the sun with its light is something and the daylight is something else. And that the daylight is an independent body and the night is an independent body of darkness. And that these two bodies have their own orbit. They are moving. And the sun has its own orbit and the moon has its own orbit. Those four. That's mentioned in the Quran repeatedly. So it will increase and increase, and then the sky will turn blue. It's already blue, but what's really happening is that the darkness is moving on. And that the light is coming. The light of the daytime. It is approaching. So the darkness that was blocking your vision from the blue of the sky is passing. It's not disappearing, it's moving away. Then what you're not going to see when the light comes, tell me. The light's going to block you from seeing something. What's going to block you from seeing? 5.
You said the light's going to block something?
Yeah. 4.
The stars?
Yes, the stars. The darkness will come, block your vision from the blue of the sky. Then the light will come and expose the blue of the sky to your vision, but will block the stars. Then that Fajr increases, becomes red. Now it's dislike time for Fajr. And then eventually the sun will crack the horizon. The top of that disk will emerge and Fajr will be over. Wallahu a'lam. So we'll stop there. Any question? Here's from the Quran about what I was telling you. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. It means the sun runs in a pathway that it has. Yani, it moves about in its own orbit, its own runway. لمستقر. It has its place, its pathway. That is the preordainment of Allah. And the moon, Allah created it to go through stages. It goes through stages until it returns back into a crescent. That's the new moon. A crescent which has the shape of a bow. A bow like the shape of the old date pollen. The old date pollen curves. وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ. The moon, we ordained it to have stages, phases. حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. Until it comes back to being like an old date pollen. That's it. Date pollen. Until it returns back to being like an old sack of date pollen. And it bows. The sun, it will never catch up to the moon, nor will the night outstrip the day, outrun the day, nor will the night outrun the day. It won't get ahead of the day. وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. All of them are in an orbit, swimming. All of them are in an orbit, swimming. All of them are swimming in an orbit. Wallahu a'lam.